Hello everyone, how are you doing? Hope you're having a great day so far. So the Meteoriks nominees were revealed at Mountain Bites a few weeks ago. The Meteoriks are like the Oscars of the demo scene, highlighting some of the best productions from the previous year. The jury is composed of other demo sceners, and it carries the tradition that we used to do with the Scene.org awards. Something more formal like the Meteoriks is worth having in the demo scene, in my humble opinion. It can be a good way to show certain aspects of the demo scene to outsiders who don't really follow it so closely, and also to acknowledge some of the best releases from our community as well. This video is not meant as looking down or negatively criticizing the work from the Meteoriks and the Meteoriks jury. I was even part of the jury in one of the categories this year. Jury is composed by people, and people have subjective tastes and opinions. It's somewhat impossible to exactly quantify art in terms of value. So at the end of the day, each demoscene production is only worth what you as the viewer get out of it. We try to reach a justifiable consensus in the jury, but it's always a hard game of killing your darlings and juggling your bias. Everyone has their favorites. I even did a highlights video of what were my favorite demos of 2024 a few weeks back. These were my highlights, and I completely understand if other people have other demo preferences. I even encourage you to post about them in the comments. That being said, I wanted to do this analysis video on the Meteoriks nominees, mostly to highlight again a few productions that didn't quite make the cut on any of the Meteoriks categories for 2025, and where possibly they could have been. One of the usual criticisms that we hear about the Meteoriks is that it could be a bit more flexible in what categories exist. Some people have asked for tiny size coding categories that the Nano Awards try to cover a little bit, or even a humor category. There could even be a music disc or disc mag categories, just a few examples of things that could be possible. There are a lot of possibilities, and to be fair, some categories were added and removed in the past throughout the years to address some of these very criticisms. Every year there is an internal discussion within the Meteoriks jury members for possibly altering the categories. Some get approved, some get changed, others don't get enough traction to make the change. Bear in mind there are actual reasons why there are only 11 categories on the Meteoriks and only 5 nominees listed in each one of them. Most of those reasons are related to time constraints, when you have to present the laureates during your ceremony at Revision for a single hour, which, being the biggest demoscene event every year, is the place most likely to gather the nominees and jury members. We don't have a whole night for the gala to take place like, for example, the Oscars do, so there are some heavy time constraints there. One of the things that I would personally prefer to see on the Meteoriks would be for the categories to not be deadlocked on 5 nominees only. Instead, having some wiggle room on the number of nominees allowed depending on the year. There are always some productions that don't quite make the cut, but still definitely deserved some highlight. And then there are some other years where all of the 5 of them don't quite are on the same level. So let's start by taking a quick look at categories for this year and what was nominated. Starting off with New Talent, 5 very strong and deserving nominees, and I have been very critical of this category in the past. Beheli, to release Man in the Box at Flash Party, would also have been a very worthy nominee in my humble opinion, but I'm not sure who I would cut from these 5 to replace it with. So yeah, I wish the category was more flexible with the number of nominees, like I mentioned before. Outstanding concept, 5 solid picks as well, with some things that didn't show up on any of the other categories, which is a good thing in my book. I can think of a couple of productions that could have equally deserved to be nominated in this category. I'll name them a bit later in the video. Best Executable Graphics, weird that there was no writer nomination here. He did a bunch of really good entries in 2024 with this photorealistic liminal aesthetic that I really liked, more than some of these nominee entries. Was also expecting YX's Fragments of Self to show up, but I can also understand the reasonings it wouldn't. The double Juvie nomination might be a bit dubious for some people, but I actually agree with the jury that Juvie deserves that recognition. Juvie was undoubtedly the most prolific 4KB executable graphics artist of the year, and they even did a few more 4KB executable graphics that could also have easily been nominated as well in this list. My favorite from Juvie from 2024 was Wired Goddess, which was one of the ones nominated, so I'm very happy that that one made the cut, and I wouldn't be surprised if it would even win the laureate as well, but we'll see what the jury thinks on that one. On the best old school production, I felt there was an exaggerated dominance of the Commodore 64 demos. Sure, the Commodore 64 scene is very strong, and their demos have definitely evolved well from the boring scrollers now to a more narrative approach. That being said, I was expecting at least Unspoken by Stardust for the ZX Spectrum, or The Chosen by Primal for the more obscure Primal platform to have been listed. Some folks were also surprised that the Ray 1-2 Mega Demo for the Atari XL didn't make the cut. I can understand the dominance of the Commodore 64 scene. The more attention to detail that they have on their demos justifies the nominations in some way. If you compare one demo to the other, the Commodore 64 demo had a lot more time invested into it. But I'm still sad not to see the representation of the other active platforms in this category in particular. Then we have a best mid-school production for platforms that start having 16 bits, and also including the more modern fantasy consoles with the limitations of those 16-bit platforms. A lot of diversity and good quality nominees here as well. I agree with all of the nominees. Wish there were some extra slots available for a few more worthy nominations. Quantum Leap by Noise and SMFX, for example, for the Sinclair QL, and Meteoriks from Raw Argon, for example, for the Pico 8. Best soundtrack, all of them are good nominees in my opinion. Was initially surprised to see Sepilia listed there, but considering the limitations of the SID, I think it was a worthy nomination in hindsight. Not gonna lie though, I was hoping to get a nomination myself for the soundtrack that I did for Entropy, but it is what it is. Gave me some deja vu from the Cineorg Awards of 2007 with the 828 demo that I also did and did not get nominated for a soundtrack award. Anyways, next up, outstanding technical achievement. It's always an interesting category. I discovered a couple of productions that had passed my attention myself. So this is another of those categories that I wish was more flexible with the number of nominees allowed. Productions of tiny size coding not having a category of its own end up creeping up here. And deservedly so. They are very good technical achievements, but that comes at the cost of hardware hack things like, for example, Bad Aeon not getting a nomination. Best visuals, it had a few surprises in terms of executable size and platform that I wasn't quite expecting, but that insight I can agree with belonging in this nominees list. Best high-end intro, I also mostly agree with the nominees here. Would have replaced Architect's intro with maybe Brain Filler by Observer or Ugly Christmas Sweater by Spectrox, but again, it's about personal taste. Best direction. It's hard to discuss because it's in so subjective direction. I can see value in all of these 5 nominees, but there are a couple of other demos that made a stronger impression on me personally in terms of direction compared to some of these. So I don't know. Next, we have the best high-end demo. I guess I mostly agree with the nominations as well. Would have personally replaced a few. The Futurist demo, for example, felt too single scene to be considered a demo of the year material for my opinion. And Fast Forward was cringy like hell for me, and Made with Unity, which also loses some points in my book. So yeah, but they all have their merits for being nominated in the end. They are all good demos. So yeah, like I said, it's all subjective anyways. So, you know, my opinion is just my opinion, and the jury clearly had a different one. So what are the productions that I was hoping to see nominated somewhere but weren't quite nominated, and maybe reason why they didn't quite make the cut? So Observers, Brain Filler, stylish as hell, didn't manage to make the cut in any of the categories. Could have been on direction, could have been on visuals, could have been on high-end intro. Sadly didn't make the cut. Halcyon by a writer and executable graphics nominee that I was expecting to see on the executable graphics, also didn't quite make the cut. Fragments of Self by YX, I also already mentioned this one as well. Meteoriks by Raw Argon, I really like the cohesion of this demo. It's one of the best Pico 8 demos of late. Was totally overshadowed by How Job's masterpiece this year. Also the second place at Revision, which was also very good for the Pico 8, also didn't get any love because of the lack of room on the category. Bad Aeon also already mentioned, such a good use of Bad Apple, hacker mentality on a hardware level, really cool to see. A Man in the Vox, a very good debut, a solid idea by Berhalit, well executed, didn't get mentioned anywhere despite its cute idea and good execution. Technical Barrier by Buzz Error Collective was the winner of animation competition at Breakpoint with great presentation and some oscilloscope visualization technology behind it. Also, no mention to it whatsoever. Was a bit weird. Transcend the Game by PWP, a very solid anti-system masterpiece by PWP. Might have lost points for using a repeated formula from what they were doing on the VIC-20 in the past, but still very well put together. Very good demo. Definitely deserves more views. Should have gotten a nominee of some sort. Entropy, my own demo, so I'm quite biased on this one, but I was really expecting it to get nominated for something, either direction or visuals or soundtrack. It didn't end up showing up on any of those radars. The Chosen by Primal, a solid demo for a not very explored platform that is very limited in what you can do with it. Would have deserved some recognition as well, in my humble opinion. Same thing for Quantum Leap for the Sinclair QL, finally getting a worthy demo for this platform, and no one seemed to care on this jury. Super Selection, the ambitious return of Future Crew using high-tech from a notch, cinematic storytelling and interesting narration perspective. No nominees for it whatsoever. Was expecting some sort of recognition somewhere, even in high-end demo. Lehel HB 160 by TGD, very solid rendering effects there. Funny concept with a philosophical twist. Nice little demo that I was expecting to see listed in some places, but also didn't get any love. Unspoken by Stardust, the best ZX Spectrum demo in the last few years. Was completely ignored by the overwhelming activity on the Commodore 64. A Vernal Festival by Limp Ninja. I love the aesthetic on this one. Great concept, great execution. Why wasn't this nominated for anything? Are we missing an alternative demo category for the Meteoriks jury? Machine Divinity by Emphys, a very small little demo with a very strong cohesion concept and breaking the limits of the audio capability of the TIC-80. So I was expecting it to creep up somewhere, but I also can understand why it didn't quite make the cut in any of the categories. It was such a short demo, only like 3 scenes in it. But this is still one of my favorite hidden gems from 2024. Then the Mateflex 001 was actually an animation video with some banger IDM breakcore soundtrack, great concept for the visuals, tight syncs. I thought it was hugely underrated at Revision, and now it also got no love at the Meteoriks. So sad times, I guess. I'm the one not keeping up with the cool kids. Classic GLSL graphics by Renard. Such a lovely concept, one of the entries I was expecting to make the cut for most original concept, for example. Under the Sea by Toback, another little Toback masterpiece from 2024. Great idea, making a karaoke adaptation of that famous Disney theme song, but very well executed and with a very good twist on it. Very sad it didn't get any recognition either. Tactical Transmissions by Pattern Syndicate. Banger soundtrack, great music disc concept, different from what you usually get on music discs. Completely ignored because it's a music disc and not technically a demo, but I really think it should have gotten some love. Ugly Christmas Sweater by Spectrox, so one of the last releases of the year. Very good concept, well executed, some old school vibes with a modern twist. I was expecting it to creep up on either original concept or best intro, but alas, too much competition on those categories to make the cut either. And those were my favorite demoscene releases from 2024 that didn't quite make the cut to becoming Meteoriks nominees. How about you? Have you got any productions that you felt like they deserved a little bit more spotlight and didn't quite make the cut at Meteoriks? Let us know on the comments below. Other than that, hope you're having a great day. See you next time. Bye bye, everybody. Take care.